Good afternoon, my name is Gwen Hartley and I welcome you all to my demonstration and what was going to be a bit of a workshop too. But because of COVID, we're here. Now behind the camera is my lovely husband, so if there's any problems with the visuals, please email him, Mark Hartley. And over to the side here is my good friend, Fae Gill. Now Fae, I couldn't do anything without her assistance. She's here morning and night giving me assistance to bring this to you today. Today is a workshop on Bandhanwar, which is a technique that was shown to me by a beautiful lady called Vanita Khemkar in India. Now, I had the opportunity to attend last year, exactly 1 year ago today, or just about 2, which is February, to the WAFA in Jaipur, where I did learn this technique. Now, to begin with, there are certain things that you're going to need if you're going to do this technique in the future. We started off with 2 of these metal rings, which I obtained from Spotlight. Now, I don't know whether you have a Spotlight in your area, but they are of metal and they use them in macrame. I think everybody's heard of macrame, haven't they? And so you get 2 of those metal rings. These ones are about 20 centimeters. And you'll need 9 of these pieces of wire, which are actually an 18 gauge, which is quite good for what we're going to do. And they're quite long too. They're about 50 centimeters long. The other things that you're going to need is double-sided tape. We all have those in our boxes, don't we? We'll need some Oasis glue and of course some wire benders. What do you call these things? Benders? Pliers. Everybody's laughing at me and saying okay. And you'll need your cutters. What we're going to do today is using what is traditionally in India jute. Now this is a beautiful fabric and it is quite a sustainable crop that's grown in India. And I was fascinated to learn how much is actually transported and shipped all over the world from India with this crop. The lovely thing about this material is every part of it is used. Now in sustainability in our world today, this is one of those sought after things that we all look for our planet. It's very strong. It has a lovely shiny luster to it. And you might know jute as a rope, because here in Australia I've only ever seen it as rope, but I do believe they're using it in fashion now too. And Faye tells me that they're using it on bags and shoes and things. Is that correct, Faye? See? She's there to help me out wherever I need her. With this crop, they actually grow with over a 6-month period, and the leaves are eaten by the people themselves. They cook the leaves. This is the bark that comes off the side of the plant, and you can see that it's beautiful long strands. Let me undo that for you. Now you can see how long and how tall these plants would be when they're taking the pieces of fibre like that. The fibre is very strong, and somebody said to me you could actually weave it through your hair and nobody'd notice the difference. But that's what it looks like. Here in India they've woven it into a rope, and which is what we're going to be using today. Unfortunately, I can't get the same quality of the rope that they had in India, so I've substituted later on with something else, which I'll show you afterwards. To begin the process for the Bandhanwar, these are the sort of things that you would need, and hopefully we're going to end up with something a little bit like this at the end. Now that's your base, and then we'll be putting flowers in that as well. with the wire, this technique I think is fabulous, and if you're anything like me, you like things to be in life to be very easy. We use the double-sided tape, run it down the wire, right to the end, give it a bit of a rub, cut it off. And if I was you, I wouldn't pull the whole backing off straight away, because as you go down, you want to be tying this on, and you'll be tying on your string as you go. And we're finishing off with the wire, and it's important that when you get to the end to also glue the end. And then just cut it off. Now I have several here already made, and what we're going to do with these now is that we're going to wind them into S's, because the S's is what's going to make it up here. You can see what I need. The decorative sections are here, and it also supports it around here. So very easily with those, you just need to have your pliers and hold it and bend the wire around the pliers. Don't do the other way, and it makes it a lot easier. Can you see what I'm doing there? Now I've got it bent one way. I now need to do it the other way. And again, bend the wire around the pliers. So you have your S shapes. Now you can have them very tight like that, which is what you're going to need on the side, but for the other sections you're going to have them a little bit looser, so they'll be like that. So you're going to have them tight. And you need 3 of these like that are tight, and then 4 when they're a little bit looser like that. Okay, the same process happens with the circle as well, exactly the same. So all we're going to do, the same thing here, is that we're putting the double-sided tape and winding it onto the wire. Double-sided tape, and why I'm saying that this is a great technique is because it makes it so much easier when you're winding wool or anything onto any structure like this to use your double-sided tape, because it's not going to come apart, it doesn't slip, it's just easy.
Can I have your double-sided tape?
Yes, you can have my double-sided tape. There we go. It's quick, it's easy. Now traditionally when you made a Bandhanwar, it would be made out of plant materials, because Bandhanwar just means door decoration, and the door decoration is something that is used in Indian culture to celebrate, to welcome your guests into the home, to ward off evil spirits, and with the flowers it's to perfume the space. It also is used in celebrations. You'll see a lot of these sort of decorations with any of their celebrations on their doors. You see them every day on their doors. It is a tradition that's well used in India. See how well this is going on? And it's quite secure. It's not going to come undone. Now, the difference between what happened in India was that I've used the thick double-sided tape on the circles, only because it tends to go right round and I have a better stickability, I suppose you would want, for better words. So it does move very quickly, and you can see I'm almost there, and it's taken no time at all. You've had a couple of sips of wine and that's it. Is that right? And the same process as with the wire. A bit of glue on the end so it doesn't come unraveled or stick up in the process. I'm going to show you, after of this one, I'm going to show another one which is going to be having a look at this process in a different way. So now we have our two rings, we have all of our wires, and we have our S's. And with our S's we're going to have attach double-sided, we're going to attach the paper covered wire so we can attach it to the rings. So before I can do that, I need to continue making my S's. Need to make sure that I have my 3 tight ones and my 4 not so tight. Now we have the 2 together and we're going to join the 2 circles together. And to do that, we need to have our 3 S's and we're going to join them in together. So we have this. Attaching it to the first ring. And again with your wires, just making sure that they're very secure, because if your techniques and your mechanics aren't secure, then your base is not going to be secure. So we have this, and now we're going to add the other one. And you can see that I'm lining up the side panels with the base panels. Okay, so it's creating a basket effect down the bottom. And then we have it. Tidy it up. Make sure all of our pieces of wire are sitting down inside. And it's very, very sturdy. Very much pleasing base for your designs. We could think about flowers now, couldn't we? So let's move on to putting some flowers in there. And with the flowers that we're going to be using with the design is I've started putting some in, which I'm using yellow Davidson roses, beautiful with the yellow centers, some alstroemeria and hypericum. And the reason why I'm choosing these colors is because typically in this type of arrangement they would use yellow, orange and red, because they're very bright and are very significant in this kind of arrangement. I'm also using one of our Australian natives, which is probably not as well known to most people. It's a brown currajong, which is a rainforest tree, and it has, you can't see the flowers that well now, but they have a white flower and they're absolutely stunning when they're out in flower. And then the flower changes into these little green fruits with a very fluffy texture. And I've actually glued them onto the arrangement, because if you look at anything to do with India, it's layer upon layer upon layer. It's very intricate. The designs of the Indian people, it seems to be that the colours are layered rather than just one straight colour. So if you look at anything that they do, you'll see there'll be purples, but they'll have another colour that's put through it in such a delicate way that it doesn't seem noticeable at first until you look right into the colour. So with those things in mind, I found that the designs in India reminded me a lot about lace. And if you look at the design that's here, it has this lacy effect to it, which is really quite stunning. And if you look at any of their designs, the henna art on their hands, the gold embroidery around the saris, the rugs, anything to do with their textiles and their architecture is absolutely beautiful in also the detail and the carvings and the stone inlays, which is amazing. I mean, we went to visit. If you go to India, you have to go and see the Taj, don't you? So we went to the Taj, and you see this magnificent building, and it's stunning, and it seems so it's all white. And as you get closer, you see the intricacies of the detail in the carvings and the stone inlay. And it is just so mind-boggling that you can hardly understand how they were able to achieve that without modern technologies to help them. But everything was so delicate, and the pieces of stone were sometimes as big as that, if not smaller, and they would work on these pieces of stone to create a magnificent design. Typically, it was just absolutely, for me, and I think for my friend Fae, we just couldn't stop looking at it. So all I'm doing here is I've used behind in this is some water tubes to hold the flowers in, and a little bit of oasis in the centre here to hold the bigger roses, to give them a bit more water. So let me just keep going with that. What you do find with a lot of the Indian work is that they'll have trails of other intricacies placed at the base. Now, these are the same sort of technique that we showed you before, and all they are is the ring with a center ring inside in here. They put the glue around the outside and a little bit of glue on the inside, and then they've wrapped it. And you end up with something like that. And then they would put flowers or some of these detailed little ribbon circles of gold. Because if you think of India, India has a lot of gold embroidery and detail on their clothing and their designs. See that the oranges and the yellows are picking up through here with the green. Unfortunately, they would use probably chrysanthemums, a lot of chrysanthemums, which I didn't use today because I thought it was an idea for us to experiment a little bit more with some of the flowers that we have available here. Concentrating a little bit on trying to find what I want to put this into. It's a little bit hard to demonstrate sometimes and talk at the same time, but we get there. You can see the brown corrigong that I've used here as I've glued this. And it just adds a little bit more detail to it. As I said, their designs are layer upon layer. And you can see that I've used these little gold decorations, which would be typically used in some of their own decorations back in India. And just sometimes a little bit stubborn, use these little trails that would be hanging down, and the little pieces of foliage would be glued on to bring your colour down straight through and continue the design right down. So this would be a door hanging that they would hold on the side of the door, and it would hang all the way down, so it gave you that essence of welcome to my home. This design here is in my interpretation of some of the designs and the techniques that I learnt with the Bandhanwar. When I told you, I look at the designs and I see a lot of lace work, and I've tried to incorporate that into my design here using wire and greenery and using some of the jute. I've covered the rings or my organic shape, as I've made it on wire as well, with the jute that I have, which is naturally the way it is. This has been dyed, and Pretty Sada gave that to me. So with this, I'll show you some of the techniques that I used here. And firstly, it's using the jute and the black wire, the black crinkle wire, which you can get from Kosh or APAC or any of those sundry items from those sundry dealers. And all I've done is I've wrapped the black wire around the jute to make it stable like that. And then to get the lacework design, I folded it back on itself, and to continue that winding, I have the paper wire underneath it, which will also give it some flexibility and strength. So just then periodically you would make a bit of a loop, wrap it around, and continued wrapping the jute. And that's how I achieved this lacework here, which I think picks up the colours of with the carnations and the roses, making it quite pretty to look at. So you can see how that's going along now. You can see the lacework's happening, and then when you want to go back, you just do the same and loop it back on over itself again. So let me just show you that. You can make these pieces any shape that you want, and as long as you want. It doesn't take very long. I guess I'm called a lazy florist because I don't like things to take forever. And then thread it through so it's coming back. It's essential that you take off some of the wire and put onto a little, this is actually a skewer stick that I've broken off so that it's easy to manage. And you can see how easy it is to thread through the loop. And there's your lace work. I hope you can see that. So that's the first technique that I used. The second technique was, I was thinking that what was used was wire, the double-sided tape, and plant material. So I have stripped off a piece of liriope. I have a piece of black flat wire. I've covered it with the double-sided tape. And again, don't pull it all the way off. Lay your greenery on the sticky side and lay it there. If I could have my, have you got the pointed nose pliers anyway? With the pointed nose pliers, you're going to wind it on. Yeah, so with your pointed nose wires, pliers, you need to just roll it. And I've said to you before, once you get it started, then let the wire roll around, not the other way around. And because you've got the greenery on, you need to bend the wire back over the greenery because the wire is more flexible than the greenery. You roll it into a circle, continue the length, pull it off your tape as you go, or the cover of your tape. When you get to the end, I think it's essential that you do the reverse so it doesn't come unstuck. Now with you created this, you now need to fold it out like that and like that, and that's my little greenery loops. Quite simple. I hope you like my interpretation of the Bandhanwar. With my next design, it's my last design, and with that I've used the Bandhanwar technique again, and with this one I've made a series of different sizes and shapes to give a different look again to what I'm going to do. I've used the same techniques. I've used the wire that's covered with the double-sided tape and covered it with what I'm using right now as macrame cord, because I wanted a little bit more colour, and at this stage we can't get the jute in different colours here in Australia. So I figured that this was quite acceptable. It is 90% recycled cotton with 10% polyester in it, but it is quite easy to work with, very much like the jute was. With the different sizes, I've made other smaller sizes, and I've used the paper mache technique that was taught to me by Parus Swarup in India, again in our wonderful world conference that was held in Jaipur. It's quite an interesting technique, and I'm sure that you'd like to have a go at that as well. With putting in the flowers, I'm going to be putting in tubes. I'm wiring them with paper covered wire. Now I'm using this paper covered wire because it matches in pretty closely with the cord that I'm using. I'll also be using little oasis dots to put down low to hold some flowers in it too, but basically I'll be using the tubes to be holding all my flowers. I think it gives quite enough water, and with the wire matching in with the cord pretty closely, I think it won't be very obvious to see. And putting it in the center, so these little files will not be observed very well. Cutting them off. I'll then be attaching them to a frame, and you'll see the full. I'll do that off camera and attach it to the frame so that we're not wasting time on some of the slower elements of this design, but you're able to get a generalized view of what it's all about. I've actually put a little bit of cording around the oasis so that when I pop it into the base in here, it again is not looking very obvious. So it is in there. So you can see that. And the same with some of these bigger ones. We will be using cable ties to attach them to each other, which we've done here, so they're attached. I've used also other wires that are covered in a bit of cording as well, a smaller cording, just to attach them so that you don't see that obvious attachment of the cable ties. The same process was done with this, with the wire like I showed you before. And they're being attached within the grid work of that. So they'll be attached into, again, the same way. Some of these will be free so that I can put them, as you can see, so I can put them, attach them a little bit like that, so that we have a connection between all of these elements that are going into my last display. This is my final design, and I've used the Bandhanwar technique, and I've made what I would interpret as a wedding design, or a wedding, part of a wedding arch for my daughter, or my son and daughter-in-law's wedding that's coming up. So this is my interpretation of what I would use. I've used strings of the gum leaves, which I've used also in fresh. These are dried, and you can see that they're the same shape, but one's a green colour and this one's a little bit lighter. And they've got the crystals that gives it a little bit of movement. I've also used some of the paper techniques that were shown to me in India by Peru Swarup, and she's coming out in November to do a workshop at our convention in Mittagong. So if you wish to see that, come out and see that. If you want some techniques, more in detail techniques, and you're a member of our association, by all means email them, and we'll have details with step-by-step details and photographs of the techniques that I've showed you today. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.